And welcome to episode 8 of Guitar Tales. My name is Dave Cohen. I'm thrilled to be here again. Everyone in this room is thrilled to be here again. We are 8 strong, or almost 8 strong. We have many more guests lined up, but let me do what I do every week, which is to talk a little bit about Riverview Studios. I say it all the time, and I'll say it again. It's the building is amazing, but it's not just the building. The people who populate this building do an absolutely fabulous job, not just of simply recording what you might walk in and say, I need, but to creatively help you build what you really want to communicate. If you have any needs at all, if you have creative needs, musical needs, if you have corporate needs, the staff here, the facilities here, the location here are fabulous. We are on the banks of the Delaware River, right around central New Jersey. It's an easy drive for anyone, either in the state or even in Philadelphia, to get here. And I assure you, this is a studio like no other. The interior of the building is old, it's beautiful, it's eclectic, and it's interesting. So this is one studio, if you look around here, that they've created for our show, but they create many studios for different needs. I want to extend another thanks to our dear publicist extraordinaire, Scott Engel. Scott has lined up many, many guests, and he and I are diabolically working on what's going to be an absolutely amazing show. We'll give you more details in the future. We have a number of wonderful guitar players lined up, and after tonight's show, our next taping is in early August. We have friend of the show, Todd Yasui, flying in from Los Angeles. He is a producer, has booked every act you could think of for multiple late night shows. The Tonight Show, the Keaton Ivory Wayans Show, the Magic Hour. I was actually on my way to court when I heard him live book Howard Stern on that show, which is a pretty famous piece of Hollywood lore. And these days, he produces the Emmy Award nominated Red Table Show, which streams on Facebook and I believe other platforms. So he'll be talking about music and really how music is integrated into that career for him. Tonight, thanks to everyone involved in the show, we are thrilled to have with us a multifactorial. Is that the right word? I don't know.
That's a big one for me.
Yeah, I don't even know what it means. But we have Chris Cologne with us.
Hey!
Oh, I like that. There you go.
Yeah, you know, we gotta.
You're warmed up.
Yeah.
Now, what people don't know, I'm not even done introducing you, but we'll do it anyway.
Yeah.
You and I have been having fun for the last hour or so.
Yeah, maybe even longer at this point.
I'm
right?
about 3 glasses in, maybe 4, and I'll keep going. But you come with a great resume. How about that instead of multifactorial?
Yeah, love it.
So first and foremost, you are in and have been in Beatles tribute bands.
Yep.
The deep dive I want to take tonight is to help people understand, and myself included, to appreciate this isn't learning 4 chords to get back or something like that. The commitment that you have made to really learn, I mean really learn note for note Beatles songs is spectacular. You are also a guitar player for Levy and the Oaks.
Yep.
I dove around all over YouTube checking out your band. You guys are fabulous. That's an all original band,
Yep.
right? You tour on cruise ships.
Yeah, I was doing that for a bit and still go around, just mainly on land now.
Okay.
Yeah.
And it's cool stuff. Why we might be here for 4 hours, to everyone's chagrin but ours, is you brought a lot of friends with you.
Yeah, I figured I have them, so why not bring them?
Now, this is not even the whole collection, I assume.
No, it's not.
That's crazy.
But it's everything that could fit in my car.
I'm looking at a lot of these guitars, just salivating over them. And our friend over here, you know, you walked in, and I said, oh, that's really cool. You brought an amp, and you just sort of said, oh, it's just a little Fender. And then I'm loading it up, and I'm like, that's a tube Fender.
Yeah.
So that's not just any old amp there either. That's a great amp.
Oh yeah, it's like my workhorse. It's the one I use the most, especially when doing like the original music stuff. And I was playing last night in Asbury, so I just left it in the car and brought it on here today.
That's perfect. So now, before we get into everything else, you know what we're about to talk about.
What are we about to talk about?
We are about to talk about 6 Degrees of what?
Oh, you're Bon Jovi.
Yes.
Yes.
But I have this obsession. It's 6 Degrees of John Bon Jovi. I don't know why. I like that extra syllable.
Is it Bon Giovanni?
That's probably the correct pronunciation.
That is the original one?
Yeah,
right?
I know a lawyer named Bon Giovanni. All right, so here's the game. We have to figure out and what steps it'll take. How many steps you are from John Bon Jovi.
All right.
So let's see. And our rule, we almost talked about it maybe 3 or 4 times leading up to now, but I don't want to know. How do we get there?
All right. So it's funny because this was bothering me, and I was like, man, if we're gonna do this game, like I need to make sure that like I actually have somebody here. And I was like, oh my God, this is perfect, and it was like even close to home.
That's a problem. Now you just set it up. You're setting yourself up for failure.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
But
Okay.
so my band, Levy and the Oaks,
Okay.
we play every Sunday night. We've been doing this summer at the Asbury Park Yacht Club, which is
Okay.
on the boardwalk. It's next to Langosta Lounge. The guy who runs that place that we've become friends with, his name is Peter Mantis.
Okay.
And he was Bon Jovi's childhood friend and first band manager.
That's it. So it's
So-
you to Peter. That's 2 steps.
Yeah.
That's fantastic.
I was like, I didn't even realize it, but he always tells us these crazy stories about like old Asbury and stuff, and it's awesome.
Wow.
Like hearing it from him. But yeah.
So you stand on the platform with the silver. And we have 2 folks sharing the gold. I forget who, but we have 2 folks who are one. I think it was Steve Bello and Charles Larita. Both have the gold right now.
Okay, so they're one away?
They're 1 away.
Wow.
And as I always like to say, there's only one person in the world who could beat them, and you know who you are. And you are about 40 miles away in Rumson. It's an easy drive on 195. Come talk to us. We'll have a good time. I don't know who you are, but maybe. Anyway, that happened at the Les show, too.
Yeah, well, something.
We're on the river.
Yeah.
So you hear that a little
Oh,
bit.
is that a river boat?
Probably.
Oh, cool.
Yes. So, first of all, thanks for coming.
Yeah, thanks
You
for
know,
having me.
We're thrilled to have you. I know you're friends with Scott Engel, and you know Scott
Mm-hmm.
from the local music scene. I think the most logical place for us to start is the work you do, and I believe your role, so to speak, which Scott did not include in the intro, is that you're one of the 2 guitar players in the Beatles.
Yeah.
And which of those 2 would that be?
Well, I play George in various Beatles tribute bands. You know, whoever will pay me.
Right. now, he is a wonderful guitar player.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
Or I mean, was. But so what started that?
For me, it was a bit of a weird thing how it started.
Okay.
So after I was in original bands for a really long time, like right out of high school. and,
Okay.
Like, started touring with these bands.
All
and
right, so that's where I cut
things.
you off because I'm already interested.
Yeah.
All right, so I know from our sort of pre-interview chat, you're in
Mm-hmm.
your low 30s.
Yep.
So you get out of high school, I can't even do the math, in the 90s maybe?
No, 2004.
Oh, God. All right. So,
Yeah.
so are you active on guitar in high school?
Yeah, I didn't put the thing down.
Okay.
My parents will hate this, but and they'll agree too. But I would have like failed high school if
Okay.
I went to like a harder high school.
Okay.
Because I would not put the guitar down. It's like all I cared about. It's all I wanted to do.
What town did you grow
So
up in?
Lakewood.
Okay.
So I set a thing like in my mind, or at least this is what I tell myself when I was like 15. Like when I
Okay.
first picked this thing up, I was like, I'm gonna do whatever I can to like make a living.
Really?
Doing this.
So at age
and
15?
I feel like every decision that I made from that point on was to try to make it, and I don't care if that's being the front guy or if it's like being somebody's like, you know, a Keith Richards to a Mick Jagger or whatever.
Right.
Or the guy that plays for Katy Perry. It doesn't. Who cares who that guy
Well,
is?
that's your-
But that guy gets paid every day.
And you're making a living
Yeah.
creating and playing music.
Exactly. So it's like so much fun.
So you're 15. When did you first pick up a guitar of any sort?
Like 14, 15.
Okay.
Yeah.
What kind of guitar? What were the circumstances?
I got it for my birthday. I remember my dad took me to the Sam Ash in Edison.
Oh, yeah,
and
I
it
know
was-
that one.
And it was one of the like Fender packs where you get the amp.
Right.
And everything.
In that cardboard box.
Yep. And that was it. And that's the body of that guitar there is actually that very first guitar.
All right. So that's a real Fender body.
Yes.
Okay. And this is when Fender. I used to do photography when I was in 8th grade, and I remember when Nikon started making Nikkor mat, and you don't even know what I'm talking about.
Nope.
But Fender did the same thing. They were just willing to slap their name on sort of lower tier guitars, and not to insult our friend over there. But Fender really, at some point, I guess in the 90s, made it a corporate decision that they would attach their name to guitars that they might not have been willing to in, the 60s, 70s, 80s.
Yeah.
Something like that. So what kind of, was it a Strat?
Yeah.
That you're,
So it used to be like a candy apple red Strat.
Okay.
So the body of that guitar is the one that I've like taught myself how to play on.
That's
like sitting in the
great.
bedroom,
So-
like and just playing along to like whatever I can and like figuring it out.
So there's some monstrous history to that guitar.
Oh, totally. Especially like for me, and it's like
Yeah.
I still get to play it on every gig, which is I always think is kind of cool. And also the fact that it's been like I've traveled everywhere with it.
So are those the original pickups or
No,
Okay.
nothing on that thing is original except for the body.
Right, that's what I was going to say because I had a '78 Strat, and your setup's exactly the same, right down to the angle of the pickups, where the pots are, where your slide toggle is. It's all the same.
So I did a
Yeah.
grab it. So this thing is a 60. I bought what was it? The Fender reissue, the 1965 like Fender reissue pickups.
Okay.
George had a 61 Strat, but it was the closest I was going to get at a reasonable
Okay.
price. My buddy sold me this neck, which was like a 60 style Fender neck.
And is it a Fender specifically?
Yeah, it's a made in Japan.
Okay.
So it was part of their like 60s reissue thing. So I was like, perfect.
And then it's a 4-bolt as opposed to a 3-bolt. And you've got
they all would have been on there. He also, it has a 3-way switch because they would have had a 3-way switch back then instead
Not a
of a
5-way.
5-way.
Oh, interesting.
That didn't come standard on guitars until I want to say 75 or 78, somewhere around
All
there.
right, so here's where I want to jump in a little bit. When I hear your language, you're not just talking about just this is the guitar I want.
Yeah.
At some point, this is the guitar I need for my profession.
Yeah.
Which is to replicate what George Harrison played and how he played it.
Yeah.
That's really interesting.
So I just went and did it. I just did it myself, and I painted this myself. I don't know if I said that already, but
no, you didn't. You told me before the show. That's what you're thinking.
Yeah. So I also painted this myself because I had that old guitar lying around and I needed one. I was like, oh, perfect.
And is that a style that George Harrison had on his guitar?
I like to say it's an exact replica.
Okay.
If you look at photos of it, I did a pretty good job.
Okay.
There's a couple things that are a little different. Like his actually had green sparkle nail polish. This is blue because
Okay.
that's all I could find, and
Right.
I felt like rushing it, and it didn't matter to me.
And you've got on the back, you've got the open machine heads, which are not
Yep.
new. Those are old.
Yeah, like
Right.
they're actually made to look old. They're locking, so it
Oh,
like,
they
helps
are.
it stay in tune better.
So they're tricksters.
Yeah, and he had this like weird little Indian sticker on there, and I found one.
Oh, let me see.
So it was from a store in Texas.
Oh, made in India, Buckingham Music.
Yeah,
Let's
so I
show
thought
that
it was like
here.
kind of cool.
I won't mess it up, don't worry.
Go ahead.
So that's really cool. Oh,
Are you kidding? This thing's been thrown around enough.
and then the neck, your friend sold you the neck.
Yeah, because he had it, and I was just like, hey man, if you ever get rid of that, like, let me know, because I knew I would put it on this.
So when you did all this, so you first get the guitar, you're a kid, you're 15.
Yep.
All right, so that's about 18 years ago or so. If my math's right.
Yeah, we'll say that is, and that's.
I don't know.
Wow.
But those pickups, where do you get those pickups? Look like they're the real deal.
Well, it's
and
just.
your pots look like the real deal.
Yeah, so I bought. I worked in a music store for a bit, so I bought all the parts from there.
You worked at Guitar Center,
it's
right?
Yep.
Okay.
Did that for about 5 years and took advantage of that little discount I had.
Oh, that's great.
I was able to put it all together and got all authentic Fender parts. And
Now, were those when you bought those? Because what you're replicating is older than you, right?
Yeah.
By a lot. So, are those pots replicas of the old ones, or are they from an older Fender?
they're custom shop ones, like.
Okay.
But I don't think it really made too much of a difference.
And you even so you're in a tribute band,
Mm-hmm.
right? And you're trying to replicate the sound. I get that. So a 5-way toggle can do everything a 3-way toggle can do, but you still made the choice to go real authentic.
Because I have a thing like in the wiring. I feel like
Oh, that's true.
There's only. So a lot of us are like nerds, and I might get some slack for this because so much of us out there are trying to like get these sounds,
Right,
and
right.
do these things. But some guys that get these guitars tend to paint a really cheap one because they
Okay.
don't want to ruin a really nice one.
Yeah.
So I was just like, let me like kind of put my own together to close as I can. That's like without spending like too much money.
Right.
But when trying to like recreate tones and things, they only had the 3 positions
Oh, really?
that they would have done. So I feel like why use the 2 and the 4?
And you have more chance of shorting out if you've got a 5.
So I was just like, I'll just do the 3.
Because and in reality, for your creative choices, 3. Who cares?
Yeah.
You know, you still have 3 pickups, and middle plus front isn't that different.
Yeah,
From,
and you can kind of trick it in a way. Like, where is it? If you do, I don't know if that's loud enough, but.
Let's see. I'll get either a thumbs up or a thumbs down from the camera. I'm going to guess a little louder. That's good. We got an okay from Jamie.
So that's like the neck pickup in there. And if you go to the middle there, you can hear it kick in a little bit.
Oh, wait, you are.
So it's stuck.
You're actually you're
like,
making it a 5-way.
And people would do that with like, they would stick like toothpicks in there.
Oh,
like,
really?
So it would hold in that position.
So you're actually playing the middle and the front right there.
Yeah, so it cancels, like to try to do that like fake hum elimination thing, which is the point of the 5-way
Oh, that's
switch.
interesting. And that guitar, I mean, even from the little noodling you just gave us, it's got really nice tone.
Yeah, thank you.
Now, what kind of speakers in your Fender? Just the standard?
It's just the stock. It's a Fender Blues Junior.
Okay.
It's loud enough. It sounds good, and I use this little floorboard here, made by Fractal, for all the sounds that I do for all the different things that I do musically.
And I see an LED. I don't think it's an LCD screen.
Yeah.
So you could pre-program a lot into that.
Yeah. So I do. Depending on which guitar I'm using, I'll have like a different patch.
Right.
So
right.
for something like this is like a little bit of a country thing, but let me see if I have. This is so much fun to see me.
I would
scrolling
never
here.
have the patience to remember all that.
All right, so
There you go.
so have a little bit of that. It's like a
It's a
30,
phaser, kind of?
30 millisecond delay. So
Okay.
gives it a bit of the chorus, which will be on a lot of Beatles stuff.
So now I know that there's limits to what you could show us, but you can show us some things, right? And it's easier without the lyrics.
I just know that like some things.
They'll get yanked off of YouTube.
Yeah.
So give us a few bars of something, and then if it gets yanked,
Okay.
do it as much as you're comfortable doing.
We'll do like, all right, so like a good Strat one that I like is that solo in Nowhere Man.
Okay.
So you can tune this too. Probably should have done that before we started filming.
It's all part of the show. It's all good.
All right, so.
That's
I
fabulous.
just think it sounds right on the Strat. And
So now, what kind of guitars did George play? He played a Strat, obviously.
yeah, he played. I brought a lot of them with me today, except for
Okay.
that guy. That's kind of like my own little thing that I use for everything else.
Okay.
But there was he played Gretsch's a lot in the early days. Of
Okay.
course, the Rickenbacker 12-string,
Oh, that's right.
which I didn't.
Which one do you want? You want your Epiphone?
No, I'll grab the Gretsch. Well,
Okay.
I guess we can go in chronological order.
All right, yeah.
So this is a.
That's friggin' gorgeous, that guitar.
Thank you. It's funny because a lot of these I wouldn't normally choose if he didn't play them.
Right. And
But it's a really cool guitar.
I always like that. Wow.
Yeah.
So
this is
purely open machine heads. Here, show the camera on that. All right.
Yeah. So this is like a made in Japan Gretsch
Okay.
called the Tennessee Rose. It's supposed to look like the Tennessean that he had.
Okay.
And, he used this on a lot of records in the early days.
I love the bridge on that. That is,
Yeah.
That looks like it could be installed in a car.
It
it's
actually
just so-
moves around. If you see, I have some tape there.
Right.
to
Yeah.
stop it from moving. But it's a really cool guitar. It sounds cool. It's really low output, and this is actually a student model.
Really?
Yeah.
And those pickups, they look very old school.
Yeah, it was made to look exactly like his, and it's neat. It's a
That's
cool
r-
guitar.
so let's
I
hear
play
the-
this one the most.
Yeah. Oh, you
especially
do? You
when-
play that more than any other?
Probably because I have this thing where they played this with the Ed Sullivan Show in
Which is the most important.
Yeah.
appearance, probably.
but not the first one. The first one he was playing a country gentleman,
Who made that?
also made by Gretsch.
Okay.
All right, so
So let's hear a few bars of. Let's recreate. It's 1969, is it? No. No, it's 64.
64 would be the
Yeah.
first one.
Yeah.
So a good one for this guitar would be like one of my favorites. I would say, Well, we'll go from the Ed Sullivan Show there.
Yeah.
I'll do like the All My Lovin'.
Okay.
Little like guitar solo bit.
Let's get a
which
few
is kinda
bars of that. That's now for that little ditty that you just
Yeah.
gave us. That's a boatload of work.
Yeah. Sorry.
No. Keep going.
So for me, like when I had started, because I feel like we got a little sidetracked.
Yeah, I
For a
know.
minute.
So let's go back to that. All right. So
Yeah.
so you're 15. You start playing guitar. You're playing all through high school. You decide that this is what you want to do.
Yeah.
Okay. You start playing in bands. That's where we cut
Yes.
off.
All right.
So before we even get to the Beatles, let's talk about your bands. What kind of bands were you in?
I was in a lot of like really heavy bands at the time.
Meaning like heavy metal-ish, hard rock?
Ish, like metal, hard rock, like
Okay.
you know, the emo screamo thing was kind of big at that time, like Warped Tour bands and things like that. So
Okay.
that's what I did. My friends were new, and I was like, I'll just play with anybody. I didn't care what I was playing.
All right.
I was always a Beatles fan, though.
Now,
I grew
where
up
would
with
you
them in the
play?
house.
Like, what kind of venues? When you're in high school, that is.
Well, back then, I was in I was in a cover band also in high school,
Okay.
and we would play at this place in Tom's River called Cool Beans
Okay.
every Friday almost, which was right next to a movie theater.
So paying gigs in high school.
I think we were actually getting paid. I don't remember, but it was
Okay.
just fun to play.
Oh, yeah,
And then
yeah.
like friends would come, and it was like kind of my first like going out at this. We were playing full band at this like coffee house.
That's great.
And then from there, it just kept going, and then we eventually like worked our way to like the Stone Pony and like Asbury. And,
So
like, doing
that's a
those
big
things.
jump. That's
Yeah.
a huge jump. From being a kid playing in a little coffee house to playing at one of the most celebrated music
Yeah.
venues in the country.
Yeah.
Right? You know, we've talked about it. You've got the Stone Pony, you have the Whiskey A Go Go. I mean, there's a handful of others. But that's a very big deal because when you think about the storied bands that have come through that place. So what was the youngest you were when you played the Stone Pony?
I want to say 17.
So
maybe.
that's huge.
Probably like right around like 17. Yeah.
Now, were you ever in situations where, at 17, you were opening for bands other folks might have heard of?
We were trying to.
Okay.
At least with that band, and then afterwards, I kind of moved on to another band that was getting better bookings, and they were signed to a label, and then I.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
So, what kind of band was that?
That was also that was the heavier band.
A heavier,
Yeah.
metalier band.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, the coffee house band wasn't a metal band. That was just like covers and kind of
Okay.
pop rock stuff with like my friends,
Right.
and we're all still friends actually.
Good.
And the heavier band, they were signed to a label, and the guitar player go on tour. And I'd caught wind with them because I was working at a studio they were rehearsing at.
Okay.
And
What were you
then,
doing at the studio?
I was just working the desk,
Okay.
and then just kind of learning things.
Where was
and
the studio?
In Howell. It was
Okay.
called the Jam Room.
Okay.
Um,
Which is right next door to Lakewood, where you grew
Yeah.
up. Next town over.
So I was doing that for a bit, and then I kind of started like just touring as much as I like could. And
So we
Yeah.
gotta slow this
I
down
know.
because it's
Just-
really cool. It's really cool.
Yeah.
So you're 17, 18 at this time?
yeah,
So this is a world that hosting this show, I'm just learning about.
yeah,
I think a lot of, the real insiders who watch our show get it already. A lot of folks don't. That outside of the bands that everybody has heard of, right? You have your Music Man guitar. Wait, which is it?
yeah.
Right.
Right over here.
That's Maroon 5's guitar player, right?
Yes.
All right. So like everyone's heard of Maroon 5.
Yes.
Everyone understands that if they want to promote some songs, if they want to go on tour, people will go see them. And there's a layer that's just sitting slightly beneath them. And what that layer is filled with are bands who create great music, who are in high demand, who fill their venues, and yet everyday person on Main Street has not necessarily heard of them.
Yeah.
So you started entering into that world.
Yeah, trying my damnedest.
But it's cool. Like, so
Yeah.
you're barely an adult, and you're making a living touring with a band whom you met in a studio.
Well, making a living is a stretch.
Okay.
I was still living in mom and dad's house at that
Okay.
point.
All right.
But at least I was like trying.
Right. And you're getting
Yeah.
some kind of remuneration.
Yeah, I
Okay.
mean, at least for a bit, and then things were going to happen when we got back, And
Okay.
at that point, I want to say it's like 2007, 2008.
Okay.
So
You're almost
it was-
8 years old by then.
yeah.
Yeah.
And there was, so it was probably like 20 at
Okay.
that point, and the label goes bankrupt.
Which,
and
is that because of everything that's happening with streaming and all
yeah,
that?
we were part of that whole thing. I have friends who were part of that whole thing. And
Okay.
It didn't work out, but that's like a story that everybody has.
And in 10 years, people might not be talking about labels anymore.
Yeah, I mean, everyone does a lot of things on their own.
Right, right.
But after that whole thing happened, I kind of just stopped playing music for a bit.
Really?
And went to school in Florida.
Okay.
And, well, actually, before I went to school in Florida, or no, I think I did go to school in Florida first.
And was this college or something else?
Yeah, well, it was called Full Sail. I was going to go for entertainment business.
Okay.
Is what I went for. Because I was
Okay.
like, all right, I at least tried it. Maybe I'll go to school and try to like work in the industry that way.
What was your emotional state back then?
Like any other 21-year-old, I guess. Like
So you weren't depressed, or were you depressed?
I mean, I guess I was, but just
Okay.
trying to figure out like what
Right.
the next step is, just like anything else.
Well, so you're literally at a place in the music industry where things almost turned on a dime, and I remember reading about it in the news. You know, signing to a label used to mean everything, right?
Yeah, so at that
Yeah.
point, I thought like, oh, I'm joining this band. Like they have this thing, and great. Like this is like that next step.
Yeah.
Like this could be huge. And then not knowing much, like as other friends do too. Like you just, all right, it didn't work out. It's just an old story.
Right.
It
So
happened.
so you were almost ready to give up on music,
Yeah, or
at least
for a
in that
bit.
fashion.
Yeah, and so I was like, all right, I'll go to school for entertainment business. And
Okay.
Before I went down, my buddies have they throw a party every year called
Okay.
Doyle Fest.
Okay.
And they're my best friends from high school. That we all play music. They're music teachers.
Okay.
And we were like, what should we do for fun? So we were like, oh, how about we just learn a bunch of Beatles songs and play it at the family barbecue? And it's when I say it's Doyle Fest, and they'll laugh if they
Now, what is
actually see
Doyle?
it. It's my buddy's last name and
Okay.
his family.
Okay.
I mean, been friends since high school. We're still, best friends.
Right.
And we learned these Beatles songs with all of our friends to play at this backyard party. And it was a really good time. We had a lot of fun. I was already living in Florida at this time.
Okay.
I had gone down to go
So
to
you
school.
had started your school.
So I came back for the party because it was like in the summer.
Okay. And how much? Wait. So how much time did you spend really prepping? In other words, did you?
For that,
Yeah.
we rehearsed a couple times, but I didn't like dive in as
Okay.
much as I did later on.
Right. Did you have more than 10 Beatles songs?
Oh yeah, we did like 30.
Oh,
or something
really?
like that. Yeah.
So
And-
that's an effort. So you're in Florida, and at that point in 07, 08, you have YouTube by then, right?
Not the way
Not
it
like
is
it is now. So
No.
you can't sneak a peek on YouTube and learn how to play it.
Like you could a little bit,
Right.
but there weren't not as much as there was
Okay.
now.
All right. So how did you learn the songs?
Just listening a lot.
Okay.
Listening a lot, looking at every like tab online or every book and trying to figure
Okay.
it out. And also watching them.
Right.
Depending on what songs they're playing.
So you'd
you
study
can
their
watch
fingers.
Them, you can watch them play live. That's how I learned how to play.
Because
from-
there are ways to play their stuff wrong,
Yeah.
right?
It is wrong, and it's such a weird thing to say. You're playing that wrong.
Well,
And-
show me. All right, let me test you.
Okay.
So my band in college did Twist and Shout.
Yeah.
I don't remember how we played it. I bet you $1 million we played it wrong. Show me the wrong way to play it.
So
Like the cheap, easy way to play it.
I think a lot of guys do this. Or,
That's like what we did. All right.
Okay.
Now, show us the subtle differences and how it's.
like kind of a little bit
There's
more
all
chunky.
this little
Yeah,
detail.
It's a little subtle thing.
Right.
It's not just as easy as going. That's not a hard song, but
Right.
to go.
But to
oh,
play it
that's-
correctly,
Yeah.
your fingering technique is critical if you truly want to recreate the sound.
And John and George had very specific ways that they played.
So here you are back then when you were about to play Doyle Fest, was it called?
Yeah.
All right.
It's just a party. It's nothing
Right.
bigger than
Which
that.
of those two were you doing, so to speak? like metaphorically anyway.
At that time, I think I was doing something based on what was closer to.
So you were not doing the really cheaped out, effortless version.
Because I mean, I was already playing. I played guitar a lot, so it was
right.
like, oh, if I'm going to play along and figure it out, I want it to sound like it does.
It's almost like you're an alchemist, you know, because you know, like, do it again if you don't mind. Show us the cheap way and the real way. Stop right there. Everyone listening, everyone watching will say, oh, that's twist and shout. And it sounds right until... And there's all the percussion you're introducing there.
Yeah.
So people will recognize version A as opposed to version B.
Definitely.
But
I like to think so.
Yeah. But in reality, you know, there's a huge percussive difference. What you're doing with the strings is different. It's very specific.
Yeah.
And then I would imagine if we were to fast forward 10 or 15 years, you're thinking, all right, I need the right kind of pickup. How far is my pickup from the string? What is my tuning? What kind of speaker? What are my tones?
What kind of strings am I using?
Oh,
what
it
kind
really
of
goes that
guitar
far.
am I using? What song did he use? Guitar did he use on this song? And
so it's not just right because he might say I'll use a Telly for this song and a Rick for this song, and you have to get that right.
Yeah. So sometimes there's pictures like in the studio, or you can actually see him do it live, and everyone kind of has opinions and takes liberties, and we all do it, and it's because you weren't there, so how do you really know?
Right,
so you have to try to use your ear.
And he's not even for you. You know, we've got Paul and Ringo alive, but George isn't around.
Yeah.
You don't even have him. Like you can't, you know, go on YouTube and listen to the interview he gave last year because you can't do things like that anymore. So here we are. You've had this Doyle Fest. Now what happened in your brain as a result of that, if anything?
So the weirdest thing was I ended up back in Florida afterwards.
So this is just like one party?
Yeah, we learned it for one party and that was it.
All right, did somebody videotape it?
I think there's videos somewhere. I think I have them on my computer somewhere.
Okay, right.
Not the whole thing, but definitely like clips.
Okay.
Oh, keep going.
Okay.
All right. Well, anyway, it was...
So you go back to Florida.
I go back to Florida. I have all these songs stuck in my head.
Right.
So I just learned.
So in other
like
words,
30,
there's a bug.
Yeah, I have 30 Beatles songs or so stuck in my head that I just learned, and I'm like, well, this is kind of weird.
Okay.
So I was in Florida. I didn't know anybody down there, so I was like, what better way to make friends than through music?
Right.
So I put an ad on Craigslist and looked for other guys my age. I was 24 at the time.
Okay.
And said, hey, I'm interested in maybe putting together a Beatles band with other guys my age that just wear like no wigs or anything like that, but just you know, black jeans, black t-shirts, and we'll play places like nightclubs and do like what the Beatles did in Germany, like just play the early rock and roll songs like kind of fast and crazy, and then play like some Beatles songs and kind of do it that way.
Right, because the Beatles in the beginning were playing a lot of covers.
Yeah, that's all they were. That's all they were doing.
Right.
And
Twist and Shout was a cover.
Yeah.
Right.
So I put this ad out on Craigslist.
Did you have that much detail in the Craigslist? Like, did you express your entire vision of it in the ad?
I think so. I wonder if I could find that ad.
It would
That's
be
actually
cool.
Really.
I mean,
I'll make a note for myself.
I have with Todd from Next. We have a backstory. We have an ad, which is what led to our band.
Huh.
You know, but it was 2 sentences. So but that's really cool if you actually laid out your whole vision.
I mean, in a way, I think I did, where I was just like, hey, like I'm interested in doing some Beatles songs, like with people my age. Like if you want to do kind of like, in my mind, I think I worded it like punk rock Beatles is kind of what I was thinking.
So what was the sort of the synapse that clicked in your brain? Because you've been playing in heavier bands. You have a nice eclectic view of music. You like the Beatles, but who doesn't, right? But suddenly, something happens in your brain, because it really played out beautifully for you.
Yeah.
But like, so what happened in your brain that you thought, you know what, I'm ready to devote a huge portion of my personal, professional, and emotional life to this band that hasn't been around for 25, 30 years?
Well, the next part of that story is,
We have another friend?
Yeah, no, I'm just gonna put this down.
Okay.
Hey, all right.
All right.
So I end up in Florida. and I'm
Right.
down there. I put
And
this
what
ad out.
part of Florida?
Orlando.
Okay.
All right. So
But there's a lot of opportunity for that kind of stuff.
there is.
There was your foreshadowing.
Um,
right.
So I put this ad out there, and I just start getting messages like crazy from
Really?
musicians going like, "Hey, there's this band at Disney, Epcot,
Okay.
called British Invasion. They're probably looking for young guys. You should reach out to them." So at this point, I'm just like, "Hey, I don't look like George. I don't sound like him. I have no business."
You're also 40 years younger than most folks who would think about doing that.
Yeah. So I'm just like, what do I have to lose
Right.
than to reach out to this guy? And I reached out. His name's Sean, and reached out to him. He was like, "Oh, well, we like dress up and do the whole thing." And I was like,
Right.
"Oh, well, I'm interested." Like I was like, "All right, let's see how far."
So even though that
I can get this,
so
yeah.
that's departing from your original vision because you're, at least in your mind, it may be truly on your listing. It says, I'm not interested in wigs, but let's do the music. Let's sort of replicate
Yeah.
the tours in Germany, playing some, rockabilly from America or whatever they were
Yeah.
playing back then. So he throws that at you, but now you've already got the Beatles. Oh, it's a horrible pun, Beatles bug. I was going
Yeah.
to say, but you've got on some level, you've got the bug, right?
Yep. And I just I reached out to him, and I went and hung out. We played guitar for a little bit.
Is he your age, younger, older?
He's older.
Okay.
He was part of one of the Beatle Mania, the Broadway
original.
tours.
Okay.
He wasn't on Broadway, but he did like one of they called them bus and truck tours.
Okay.
I don't mean to do that either.
That's
I don't know why.
Those failures.
Yeah. No.
Yeah. Sean is no longer your
Yeah.
friend.
No, he definitely is.
Yeah.
But I end up down there, and he says, "Okay, like here's where you get a wig. Here's where you get boots. Do you have a white T-shirt? And we'll
It's crazy.
do all this stuff." He's
so
like,
there's a thing.
"Yeah," and I was like, "Oh." So, and this shows will tell you how like naive I was like at the
Right.
time. And I was like, "Okay, so this is at Disney World," and I was like, "I think I just got the gig," and then they offered me money.
Wow.
And I was in school at this point, and I had like hit like a crossroad of.
All right, you got a fork in the road.
Do I finish school, which
Right.
I already went after music, like
Right.
at this point of my life.
Well, and not only that, you're in school because music hadn't succeeded.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But
Or
then,
you perceived it hadn't succeeded.
exactly.
Right.
So now I have this carrot in front of me of like, do I really have like an opportunity to work at Disney World and pretend to be like in the Beatles, like
Right.
as a thing? And it ended up working out. They offered me money, and I just went, okay. And then I left school and went and did that for a bit.
Right.
And, from like 2010 to 2012.
All right. All right. Who's the guy? Pete? Did you Pete Best anyone? Did you Pete Best the old George Harrison guitar player from that act?
No, I just
Okay.
got lucky.
All right.
I think they were in the process of kind of getting rid of somebody anyway.
You did. You almost
So
bested
almost,
someone.
yeah. And then the minute I found out, like I had that, I was like, I'm at Disney World. I'm getting paid for this.
That's fabulous.
I was like, I am not like I can't screw this up.
No.
So I would just go home and just learn as much as I could.
All right. So your situation at home, you're in an apartment probably down there.
Grandparents' couch.
Really?
Yep.
Okay. So you have an amp, you have a guitar down there.
Actually, at that time, I had a couple of guitars with me.
Okay.
I had a Gretsch
Okay.
and a Les Paul with me, and most of the stuff was still like with my parents.
So how were they about you practicing at that level?
I mean, I would practice like unplugged. I wouldn't.
Okay,
I wouldn't be
okay.
in there. Like I'd be plugged in like with the headphones.
So it was
on.
not that disruptive for them?
No, not at all.
So what kind of effort is it to go from like, you're goofing off with your buddies,
Mm-hmm.
and I can't really put that down. Learning 30 songs is a big deal. I mean, that's a lot of songs. But now you're you're under the microscope.
Yeah.
If you're playing at Disney, I mean, forgetting the the vacationers,
Yeah.
the supervisors, the people who book you, the people who write your check, I would imagine have the capacity to be very critical
Yeah, definitely.
and exacting.
I was lucky. I was one of the last guys to get in on that gig.
Really?
It was there for 15 years. Yeah.
Seriously.
So, and that was another reason why I went to, when it came to like school
Yeah.
or go with this gig that I just got. It was like, the show's been here for 15 years. There's this whole Beatle tribute world. I didn't know about it. It's crazy. And then
Wow.
I was like, oh my God, I did it. Like, I'm making money. I'm doing this thing. It was 5 20-minute shows 5 days a week, sometimes 7 days a week.
5 20-minute shows.
Yeah.
5 days.
And you
Wow,
would
that's a
go out,
lot of work.
And you would go out and you would do it, and then you learn like real quick that it's a grind.
Oh, I would think.
I mean, it's still fun, and like you would try like new songs and do all kinds of different things. But
So where would your creative juices take you in that paradigm?
well, I just kept doing that. Like I stopped like really playing and like learning other things. I was just diving in on this Beatles stuff.
But I would think your creative juices would say to you, how can I keep improving upon replicating something that iconic,
Yeah.
right? Like, would you be able to say to yourself in February, this is what I did, and here we are in June, and I'm so much closer to replicating the original?
The biggest thing was singing.
Okay.
So my first show at Epcot, it was at the UK Pavilion.
I've been to Epcot only about 20 or 30 times.
Okay, so you know exactly what I'm
Yeah,
talking about.
Yeah.
Right there in that gazebo.
Right.
I've
probably seen you.
It's possible.
I've had my children there 20 times.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah.
It's very possible. I had somebody show me a picture of me with them from Disney that was at like another Beatles show I was doing, and like,
Okay.
but had no idea that they were like,
was you.
"Did you used to work at Disney?" I was like, "Yeah,
Oh,
I
that's
did."
funny.
And then they had like a picture on their Facebook, and it was like their whole family. And I was like, "Oh my God, look at that!"
Yeah.
But it was I forgot where
So we were
where
talking.
were we going?
No. So we were talking about if you were to compare, say, I made up the dates, but
Yeah.
February to June, right? So
Oh, singing.
yeah,
That's where it was.
we were, right?
So the first show that I had, the first set, was like it was a thrown to the wolves situation. It's like we're gonna put you out there, we're gonna see how you do, and
Oh, really? So
if you don't-
you're talking about not the first when you sang, just the first of any sort.
Yeah, they were like,
Okay.
here's the songs. When I met him, he was just like, you can play guitar, I can see that, like how you pick it up and how you handle it.
Right.
So I was like, okay. And then he's like, here's the songs. It was like a Monday. I was gonna go up on Friday for like a set or two, and then
Wait, hold on. So when you say a set or two, is there another George Harrison in between at this
Yes.
point? There's our Pete Best.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. You don't like that. You feel badly. I could tell.
I mean, I don't feel
Yeah.
bad because I shouldn't say that.
Yeah.
But
It's fine. You deserve. I mean, seriously. I mean, it's just the way
my
life
mom
works.
would always say it. She would refer to it, Wally Pipp.
Okay.
The guy who was on the Yankees, and I think Lou Gehrig took over for him.
Oh,
for
that's
like
funny.
ever. So because he was like sick one day or something like that. So it was just
yeah.
don't be the Wally guy, be the Lou Gehrig guy.
Yeah.
It's like don't
yeah.
ever miss anything.
No, but again, just to pause on this, and then we'll come back to your singing. You've worked your ass off, not just as a guitar player, but as a George Harrison guitar player.
Yeah, I think so.
So that's the person who does that deserves the fruits of that effort. So
Oh,
anyway,
well-
so your first
well,
gig.
thank you.
Sure.
So the first gig, I'm just thinking George Harrison, Beatles, lead guitar player. So I learn all the guitar parts, like
Right.
as close as I hear them and as much as I can, and don't even think before we're about to go out. Like we have like a little huddle, and this happens with a lot of like these tribute bands. All right, what part are you singing? And I
You
was
just
like,
say, "Oh shit."
yeah, it's exactly. I just go, oh my God, I didn't even learn the harmonies. Because like in a weird way, like I was so
Oh, but the
naive
Beatles
about
aren't
the
known
whole
for
thing.
harmonies at all.
Exactly.
Yeah,
So I was just
yeah.
thinking like, oh my God, I did all the homework and I didn't learn the harmonies. So I have it saved on the computer too.
Okay.
There's 5 of us up there.
Right.
One guy's behind the keyboard and he's just singing my harmony parts and I'm playing the leads.
Oh, that's funny.
Basically to see if I could do it.
Okay.
And then the second set, they showed me the harmonies, and then I went out and did them.
Oh, that's good.
And then it all worked out.
He didn't lead vocal on that many songs, did he?
Not that many,
Right.
but definitely notable ones, like Something, obviously,
Right.
big one, Here Comes the Sun, Taxman.
Yeah.
Do You Want to Know a Secret? I mean, there's
Yeah, he's got
While My Guitar Gently Weeps, of course.
a few bars. Whatever guitar you have plugged in. Yeah, don't sing it because.
Well, here, use the, we'll grab that
I'll
one.
get
over
it.
there.
I'll get it.
All right.
All right. So this friend, this is our Les Paul. I feel nervous grabbing such a nice Les Paul. There you go. All right. Let's look at this before I even hand it to you. This is gorgeous. So you've got. So tell us a little about this guitar.
So that is a replica copy of what Eric Clapton gave to George. He nicknamed it Lucy. It's a red Les Paul. since it was a copy, I made some modifications myself.
What'd you do?
So he didn't have this little, they call it a poker chip up here.
Okay.
So I took that off. I got like these reissue pickups on it that I think are like closer to it.
Are these humbuckers? Are they genuine humbuckers?
They're Seymour Duncan 59s.
No, that's not what he would have had, is it?
No, because he would have had like.
They weren't around back then, were they?
Well, not Seymour Duncan. They would have
Yeah.
had actual 59 PAFs or whatever.
Right,
so
right.
Be very specific.
Right, and then what about the pickguard? This
Yeah,
that came with it.
You get all that and like try to get the right knobs on it. And
Well, it's a good-looking guitar.
Thank you.
It's obviously a one-piece, as all Les Pauls are. You've got your sealed machine heads. It's got a great paint job. Very nice.
And I think it was a gold top originally, like in his.
Okay.
And it was, then they refinished it in red. And I want to say it was Rick Derringer had it originally.
Okay.
And then he hated it, so we like sold it to this place in New York. And then Eric Clapton picked it up, and when he went back to England, he gave it to George.
You
And,
remember? Yeah. Remember a few
yeah.
years ago, someone robbed all of Derringer's guitars from his apartment in New York?
I didn't know that.
About 5 or 10 years ago, that was on the news, and they were trying to get a collection together to help him replace all his guitars. So we talked before the show. So it's not lost on me that this little gift from Clapton to Harrison was the precursor to him stealing his wife.
Yeah, maybe.
You know.
And the funny thing with Patty Boyd too is she has 2 great songs written about her, being Something and Layla.
All right.
It's kind of wild.
It is kind of wild.
But so I just say I have this like plugged in. This is what I use for blah, blah, blah.
So
The While My Guitar Gently Weeps
Right.
effect, which is a little bit of like a chorusy delay.
So what would he have done back then? What were the products he would have used back then?
So I mean, it's
There wasn't
kind
a chorus back then, was there?
No, they had to manually do them, like move the tape heads around and do all kinds of
really?
crazy tricks. They had to figure it all out.
Right, yeah, because we talked on one show about the Leslie speaker cabinet, which is just crazy.
Yeah, that's a big George Harrison thing too. That was
You
all
used the
over,
Leslie?
all over the Abbey Road record. And
So you can't,
Kinds of
you don't have a Leslie, I assume.
no, I did.
Did you really?
But they're too heavy. And
That's
to
yeah,
bring
to
around.
bring it with, and then
But I have a little effect here that I use for that.
oh, that
kind of
works.
sound.
And then
It's like-
I know the Kinks took razor blades to their speakers to create the fuzz sound.
Yep.
Pretty cool. So let's hear "While My Guitar Gently Weeps," as much as you're comfortable playing.
Yeah. So that would be like the lead
That's
sound that I
fabulous.
use for that.
Right.
I think it sounds pretty good. And
How much work did it take? You could just sort of fake one could fake their way through that lead and get by with it.
yeah.
So talk to us about the amount of work it takes to get it to the point where you're tribute band worthy, right?
Well, after the Disney thing ended, I realized how I wasn't that good
Okay.
as I thought I was.
Why is that?
I
Because
started getting calls from other bands, and
Okay.
this band Beatle Mania now,
Okay.
who I was a part, or I'm still a part of, but been with them since 2012.
Okay.
And all of those guys have been playing in like theaters and like worked with Broadway guys and everything like that. So I was just like, I'm at Disney, like I got this thing, not knowing too much, and like then I start working with guys that like really look the part or like really sound the part like so much more, and I'm just like, I gotta step my game up here. So
Right.
just keep practicing, keep going. I'm still learning like every day.
Who's the one? The guy who wrote the book. You have to do something 10,000 times to get good at it.
Oh,
know what I'm
I
talking
know who you're
about.
talking about. Isn't that like an old like proverb, like some Chinese or Japanese
It might
thing?
be. I know. There's a guy who wrote a book 15 years ago or so, and he would talk about any athlete, any person who does something well at least
Yeah.
10,000 times. You've got to do it.
Yeah. And I might be at like 6.
Right. Yeah. I'm listening to that lead though, and like I could sort of tell the difference between someone who's sort of just not flubbing their way through, but just sort of easing their way through it.
Yeah.
And I'm watching both the right and the left hand, and everything you're doing is very accurate. You know, and I think that it sounds to me like that in and of itself is an art, because what you're really aspiring toward is to recreate the magic that would be on whatever studio recording you're listening to.
And sometimes you take liberties with certain things because, oh, they did it live this way. So you can kind of, you can always kind of play with it a little bit, but you can't, not too much. It really depends on what you're doing and what you're going for.
And most of what you're dealing with is studio, because they didn't tour that much.
Exactly.
Right.
But yeah, it's just trying to be as close to that original thing as possible.
So let's talk about While My Guitar Gently Weeps. What do you know about sort of the hardware that George used for that? What was his amp? What was his guitar?
So he didn't play the lead. Eric Clapton did. And it's been fabled that it would be, some people have said it's a Marshall or it's a Fender, or like whatever it is.
Okay.
Or plugged straight into the board, because that was a thing they did a lot.
Oh, did they really?
Back then.
With no effects in between?
No, but then he played a lead. I'm probably going to butcher this story.
Okay.
But he played the leads and did everything, and then complained that it didn't sound Beatle-y enough. So then they messed around with like the tape wobble and do all kinds of things. And but George, I think, just played acoustic guitar on it.
Oh, really? Well, I read. It's funny. Not even preparing for this show. I know what it was. I think was it Howard Stern I was listening to? Yeah. They were just talking about how Paul would have to play some leads if George couldn't handle them.
Yeah,
Is that true, or do you believe it's true?
No, I definitely think it's true.
Right.
I've had this discussion with friends and
shock of shocks, right?
Yeah.
Right.
Because sometimes they're saying things like, he couldn't come up with anything that was good, or Paul would come up with something that's better, or maybe he was just running a brain thing, and I'll just do it because we're crushed for time or pressed for time.
Did you feel, from your vantage point now, just the deep dive you've taken into this band? That's our issue. I think it's your sunglasses. Yeah. There we go. We've resolved it.
Sorry.
We got a thumbs up from the booth from Mary. All right, we're all good. So, one could look at the Beatles and say, all right, Paul and John are up here, and then George and Ringo are here.
Yeah, I always say I'm third on the call sheet.
Okay.
So the John and Paul have to be really good for me to feel like I can do my job best.
Right.
That's where, because I'm a support character.
And do you think that was where George was, vis-a-vis the other guys in the band?
I think so. He was the younger guy, so that was always a thing.
Right.
In a weird way, I definitely feel like I fit into that character very easily.
Okay. All right. Or do you think you've grown into that character easily?
It could be a little bit of both.
Right. and it's funny because that's like, I don't know, think of, just a lineman on the Patriots, or something like that, where vis-a-vis his fellow players, he might not feel that great about himself, but he's on the Patriots, And not that I'm a Patriots fan, but I'm trying to think of the best football team we've seen in a while. But the Beatles, they'll always come up in anyone's conversation, best rock band ever.
Yeah.
So if you want to be the third best and the best band ever, that ain't so bad.
Yeah.
Right. But George, he wrote some really good songs.
Oh yeah.
What do you think?
Great songs.
He wasn't a guitar slinger, though.
Yes and no.
All right, so let's hear about this.
Because I think he's underrated as a lead guy.
All right.
He really came up with some great stuff.
Show us.
I think one that,
Who did the lead on Get Back?
like All My Lovin', that's actually John.
Oh, okay.
On Get Back.
Okay.
Doing all that, like.
That does sound like John, actually.
So John had a very erratic, like, kind of way that he would play.
Right. George was more melodic.
Yeah.
All right, so what was I interrupted you. What was one you were going to show us from George?
Octopus's Garden.
Oh, let's hear that. Which is such a cool lead.
Yeah, it's like, that's a great little.
Yeah.
That's a cool little lick.
That's a really cool little, and it's such a crazy song. I don't know how much acid it took to write that one. An octopus's garden in the sea.
Yeah.
You know.
Well, most of Ringo's songs deal with water and somehow. Yellow Submarine.
Oh, that's right. That's right. What do you think of him as a drummer?
I think he's great.
Do you?
Yep.
You think he's great or you think he's good?
I think he's great.
All right. All right.
I think there's nobody better for him than in that situation. Anytime someone says,
You know what? That's true. That's true in that situation. Right.
You don't have to be a virtuoso to be
Right.
great.
What do you think Pete Best thinks about him as a drummer?
I mean, he couldn't do it. Couldn't.
No.
cut it.
And they very well might not have become what they became
Yeah.
if they didn't do everything they did.
Ringo was my favorite, and I think it's
Really?
because he was a star of all the movies.
Oh,
You know,
that's
so
true.
I watched all those movies as
Right.
a kid, and he was always, the Help movies, just him running around with this ring that they're trying to get, and
That's true.
he was always the funniest.
And you know what? They were really pioneers in the area of connecting video to music.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, who would have thunk it
Yeah.
back then? But what was the really fun movie? Hard Day's Night, right?
Yeah.
That's just a fun movie.
Yeah, and they all still hold up.
Oh, absolutely.
They're great.
What's the Stones' answer to Sgt. Pepper, Her Satanic Majesty's
Yeah.
Secret Request?
Well, She's a Rainbow, that's probably the only song that I like off of it. But
Right, right. Are you an anti-Stones guy?
No,
Because-
not at all.
Okay.
But I like the Stones when they're a little bit more like rock and roll.
Right, right. As opposed to the 80s or even 70s for that matter.
Well, see, but Miss You to me is like a cool song because it's groovy. So
It's groovy,
yeah.
but it's not. Yeah, they.
Yeah, but like the Jumpin' Jack Flash stuff and
right.
all that.
That's very good.
Even the Start Me Ups and whatever, Give Me
Two
Shelter.
whole chords, right?
Yeah, they're great. They're
Right,
so
right,
cool.
right. All right. So I have no idea how long we've been going, but I feel like I'm ignoring a little bit of your creative stuff. So let's talk.
Yeah.
Or not creative. That's a horrible word choice. Your original stuff. What's that?
56 minutes.
50. Wow.
Wow.
It's going
Okay.
fast. All right. It always
All right.
does.
Cool.
So, so the band is Levy and the Oaks.
Yeah, so there's a couple things that I'm involved in, and because I've definitely shifted through the years for
Okay.
like going after certain things.
Right.
Levy and the Oaks is my original band
Okay.
that I'm in with some friends, and we're playing every Sunday. So I'm gonna.
A
Which camera?
plug. Do a
Which
plug.
camera can I look at here?
They'll find you. Look
All
at
right,
that camera.
perfect.
Look
I'll
at
do this
Monica's
one.
camera.
We're playing every Sunday at the Asbury Park Yacht Club
Okay.
at 9 o'clock. Or, yes, 9 o'clock every Sunday. It's free. It's on the boardwalk. Come on out. Have a good time. You will have a good time. How about that?
All right. Now let's talk. What kind of music is it? Who's doing the writing?
So our singer and main songwriter.
I bet his name is Levy.
It is.
Okay.
It's Levy Oken. And,
Oh, that's his full name, Levy Oken?
and he does all of the writing. He'll come up with like an acoustic guitar.
Okay. So, so Levy and the Oaks. So Levy, I would have bet any amount of money that Levy was his last name, but it's Levy, and he calls it Levy to be a
Yeah.
little different. But no, his name is Levy Oaks.
Yep.
That's a cool name.
Oken.
Oken.
Oken. Yes.
So,
But he's was in a band called Socratic with also the bass player Lou.
Okay.
And they started this thing a while ago, and I joined them playing lap steel. Of all
Oh,
things.
really?
They were looking.
it's open tuning and everything?
Yeah. So they were looking
Wait,
for
I'm going
somebody.
to cut you off. That's impressive. You know, because to me, that's a whole nother level of learning guitar when you could play a lap guitar with open tuning.
Well, I learned it for the band.
Really?
Because I was into the country thing, and like Lou had asked me, he was like, "Hey, would you want to do this?" And I was like, and funny enough, George was the slide guy, so I was like, "I can do this."
Oh, he
and, like,
was?
to figure it out. Yeah,
Okay.
especially like post Beatles.
So he did that open tuning?
Yep.
Okay.
And but mainly on guitar, like
Right.
this way, and
with a beer bottle or what have
Yeah.
you. Right.
and I was like, all right, cool. And then we like started this, and it was like my first time doing original music in 8 years because I was
Right.
just doing Beatles forever.
But
So.
so how did the Beatles stuff prepare you to do that?
Well, I did the original thing at first,
Right.
and then got kind of sidetracked with the
Right.
Beatles stuff, and then found my way back
But
to original music. But I still do. So now I have the best of both worlds.
But I wonder if
Mm-hmm.
all of that hard work you did, learning precisely the way George Harrison approached the guitar, maybe gave you a leg up when you went back to originals.
It did, but it didn't. It's still challenging for me.
Are some of your
because-
go-tos some of his go-tos?
Kind of. They were
Okay.
for a while, so I had to
Right.
like kind of, not relearn guitar, but like get
Right.
comfortable with like kind of refinding myself
Right.
as a player.
I wonder if he's
And I'm
gonna.
still figuring it out.
I wonder if he'll always flavor you a little bit. You know, like flavor your style just to
It's-
drop.
I know my dad plays also, and
Oh.
he
That-
has.
In the roustabouts.
Yes, that's
with
right.
Scott Engel.
He did. That's
That
correct.
was so perfect. I was supposed to
The
talk
segue,
about that.
there
That
it
was the
is.
best segue ever. Scott was in a great band with your dad.
Yeah.
So what were you going to tell us about the roustabouts?
But I would play with my dad if he like needed me for things or if I was around.
Yeah.
And sometimes I would play with them and like take a lead when I was like in the middle of this like Beatles stuff.
Oh, yeah.
And he would be like, "You sound like you're playing like George," and I was
Even before you were doing the
kinda
gig.
funny. Oh no, it was after. So
Oh,
I was
okay.
already like doing the George thing, but
Okay.
like it would be funny because then I would play some of these leads like
Right.
how George would play it without trying.
It's almost like that movie Face Off. You know, after they get their right faces back, they still have some of the tics of the
Yeah.
person they were. That was a weird comparison. But I think it could serve you well, though. I mean,
Yeah.
there's worse guitar players to have
Exactly.
sort of floating around in the back of your
And
brain.
it's, I've always, since I've learned how to play by not taking lessons, I've learned to play by playing other people's stuff.
Okay.
So I've kind of learned everybody else's tricks and stole them and kind of make it into my own weird.
Right. Well, no one's
way of
ever,
playing.
no one ever truly does something no one's ever done before.
Yeah.
I mean, we talk about that on almost every episode.
Mm-hmm.
Everyone is building on what other people have done before them. In the law, what I do for a living, we're all building off. There's a guy, Levy, who is the best trialer arguably ever, and we all learn from him. So you're learning on the backs of the people before you, and then they'll learn, the people 30 years from now will learn off of you.
Yeah,
So it all
hopefully.
works. So what is this style of Levy and the Oaks?
It's just like pop rock. Like,
Okay.
I mean, our main lineup is just all three of us sing,
Okay.
or four of us.
Okay.
And,
two guitars, bass, drum, or something else?
Well, lead singer, two guitars, bass and drums.
So your singer is not playing an instrument?
No,
Oh,
not
that's-
anymore. We added a guitar player.
Okay, to free him up.
Yeah.
Okay.
And now he just gets to run around and be a front man, which is nice.
Which is
Kinda-
important. Yeah, I mean, that's helpful. You think of some of the most successful bands, you know, The Who, Daltrey, sort of. He really can't play guitar, but we've seen him do it a few times. Van Halen, I'm thinking of.
Yeah.
You know, like stuff like that.
Aerosmith.
Right.
Yeah.
And
The
then we've
Stones.
seen, yeah, right. And Steve Tyler, he can play piano. I've seen,
Yeah.
you know, he plays piano.
So yeah, I mean, and he'll bring us a song, and we kind of just build on it and try to do things that way.
So Levy and the Oaks, do you guys have recordings?
Yeah, we're on Spotify.
Okay.
We actually just did released a cover of
Okay.
the romantic song "Talking in Your Sleep."
Oh, okay. I saw that on my YouTube journey.
Yeah, it's
What was the Romantic's big hit?
probably what I like about you.
Yeah, we did that
Yeah.
in my first college band.
Yeah, it's a great song also.
Yeah.
But there's something super cool about that one that we wanted to do, and we feel like
Talking
we
in Your
sounded-
Sleep was a good song.
Yeah, it still is a good song.
And it was
That
one
song
of the
holds up.
earlier successful videos on this thing called MTV, which was brand new at the time. That's very cool. And then so you're on Spotify.
Yep, Spotify, Apple Music, Amazon, YouTube, Facebook, all
right.
the normal things. It's Levy and the Oaks.
All right.
Instagram.
So basically, if people want to find, let's start. Is there a way to find just you? Do you have a website?
Yeah, actually, I'm working on it, but you
Okay.
can just find me on Instagram. It's just Chris Cologne, spelled just like that. I should be the only one.
Okay, good. So basically, go to your Instagram account,
Yeah,
and
and
that
I'll
could be the funnel that takes us to everywhere else.
Yeah, exactly. I'm always posting like shows that are there
Okay.
or other acts that I'm working with, because I also work with this girl Tara Dente.
Okay.
Which is more of like a folky country thing, which I
Okay.
got into through the lap steel.
That's
stuff
really
with
cool.
Levy.
Yeah.
And there's a record that's coming out any day now.
Oh, that's
so,
fabulous.
which I'm excited about.
And we go to your Instagram page. When
Yeah.
it comes out, we'll find it through there.
Yeah.
Oh, that's fabulous. And then, do you have anything coming up with your Beatles tribute work right now?
Well, this Friday I'm in Ohio.
Okay.
I forget exactly where. But there's like a fair. I'm probably going to post about it on Facebook.
Okay.
And then actually in Summers Point
Okay.
this summer,
All right.
which is down by Atlantic City.
I know where it is. Yeah, right.
We're at a theater down there for about 4 or 5 nights.
Oh, that's great.
So I'll be posting about that too.
Well, that's fabulous. Well, I want to thank you for joining us. You brought all your friends with you.
Yeah, man.
Did we talk about all our guitars? We had the Gretsch, the acoustic you were playing before. The Epiphone we didn't really talk about, but he's here. He's hanging out.
Yep.
All right, and we learned everything. Does that guitar have a name?
Well, it's named Rocky.
All
That's
right.
what his is. That's actually the name of my dog. I don't know if that's a coincidence, but I like to think it's because of the movie.
Oh.
For me, the dog,
There you go.
not the guitar. Yeah.
All right. Well, this has been an absolute
Awesome.
pleasure having
Hey,
you.
thank
you
you.
so much. Well, we want to thank you guys for tuning in to another episode 8 of Guitar Tales. My name is Dave Cohen. I again want to thank all our dear friends here at Riverview Studios. Go to riverviewstudios.com. If you have any recording needs, even just to talk about it, you might find that they will have creative solutions for any kind of marketing needs you have or in-house training, things of that sort. The facility's fabulous. Again, thank you so much to Scott Guitarmacist Engel, and we want you to stay tuned for more shows. Really, really important. If you like the show, if you're enjoying the show, hit our YouTube channel and subscribe. We're getting tons and tons of views. Our Facebook page broke over 700 likes, so people are getting regular notices from Facebook on things that are going on with Guitar Tales. But if you go onto our YouTube page, which is effortless to find, just YouTube will be Guitar Tales with Dave Cohen. Subscribe, and this way, as soon as we upload anything, you'll be able to watch it. We stream on YouTube and on Vimeo, so come watch more episodes. Thank you so much, and we'll see you next time on Guitar Tales. Have a good night.